Oppenheimer, the scientist who kept both emotions and reason in perspective. From the love of creating bombs to the hatred of bombs, this film tells the story. It was a catastrophic event in human history, a terrifying incident that resulted in the loss of millions of lives. The world witnessed this doomsday moment when Japan was devastated by 2 atomic bombs, turning 2 cities into ashes. It's remarkable that while the Japanese rebuilt their lives from the ashes, the heat of that fire is still felt throughout the world. It was the month of July when these atomic bombs were prepared on July 16, 1945, and the following month of August when they were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August 6 and August 9, 1945. Now, in those very months, this film has been presented worldwide, not just as a commemoration of a tragedy, but as a scream of conscience. This film will remain memorable for its subject matter and technical and artistic aspects. It won't be surprising if this turns out to be the biggest film of the current year, a film that triumphs not only at the box office but also at the Oscars. A detailed analysis and review of this magnificent film are being presented. Who was Oppenheimer? The beginning of World War II originated from Germany. This ferocious war and controversy sparked a fire that spread throughout the world. Julius Robert Oppenheimer was the name of this renowned American scientist of Jewish descent who developed 2 atomic bombs in America, which were tested on Japan during the war. Born in America, this Jewish scientist changed the course of world history with his invention. America and its allies emerged victorious in the war. The theoretical physicist demonstrated how he turned his ideas into practical reality through the Manhattan Project, and this subject has become the theme of numerous books and films. His parents had connections with Germany, and he also went to Germany to pursue higher education and obtained a doctoral degree from the University of Göttingen before returning. Throughout his life, there were 3 central aspects: physics, his beloved, and his wife. He achieved success by orbiting these 3 spheres and emerged from the darkness of despair. On the one hand, he received immense love from the American people, but on the other hand, he was disgraced by those in power. Perhaps even the Japanese people may not hold him in high regard. From the love of creating bombs to the hatred of bombs, this film tells the story, which has been described in a book called American Prometheus. It was jointly written by 2 authors, Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin. British-American filmmaker Christopher Nolan incorporated this book into the script of his film, and now this film is before you, depicting all the highs and lows of Oppenheimer's life. Why did the director make this film? The director of this film, Christopher Nolan, no longer needs any introduction. He is an expert in making action-packed, fast-paced films. He keeps himself away from technology, even using a very simple phone in his daily life, and tries to keep his films as technology-free as possible. He is not fond of releasing films through streaming portals. He belongs to the class of filmmakers who openly protested for the survival of theaters and the love for the big screen. This led to significant financial losses for him in the business aspect, but he remained steadfast in his stance. Christopher Nolan often writes the stories of his films himself. When his previous acclaimed film Tenet was released, the producer of this film, Charles Roven, presented him the epic biography of Oppenheimer, American Prometheus, as a gift. While in our region, it is being speculated that the era of books has ended, it is not the case in the Western world. So, behind the scenes of this film, there is also a motivating book, a book that the authors spent many years writing, and when it was published, readers accepted it with open arms. This mentioned film is also an expression of this acceptance, indicating that when filmmaker Christopher Nolan read this book, he had some knowledge about Oppenheimer, but consider it like the book ignited a spark, and he became immediately ready to film this story. Although several documentary films have been made on this subject, Christopher Nolan wanted to portray this detailed epic biography in his own creative style, and he did. We can also say that he practiced for this film by making his brilliant film Dunkirk, which allowed him to present this story in the best possible way with a war background. Film's production design. The mentioned film term production design was specifically created for films like Oppenheimer. There was a fierce competition between film studios for the rights to this film, and ultimately, Universal Pictures won the bid. Filmmaker Christopher Nolan had some conditions for them. the foremost being that no other film from the studio would be released 3 weeks before and 3 weeks after the release of this film. The studio agreed to this unique condition. In addition to this, there are only 3 central producers for this film, including Emma Thomas and Charles Roven, alongside Christopher Nolan himself. This film is gaining popularity worldwide, including Pakistan, setting new records. The film used the latest cameras and is the first film in cinematic history to be shot simultaneously in color and black and white. The filmmaker made this distinction to maintain the thematic and purposeful essence of the story, reflecting the past in black and white and the recent life of the central character in color. This differentiation of colors created highly positive effects. The film includes many locations where Oppenheimer spent his life, including his educational institutions and residence, captured through the use of modern cameras, including the IMAX 65mm used on large formats. A special software called Photochem was developed by the Kodak company for the film's photography. The portrayal of the atomic bomb experiment and related scenes in the film shows how creatively the filmmaker utilized the technique, as most of these scenes were shot without any visual effects. For example, a special set was designed for capturing the explosion in the experiment, including gasoline, propylene, aluminum powder, and magnesium. Along with this footage, limited use of visual effects was also employed, creating a unique impact. The film's music, with a duration of over an hour, was well utilized to express emotions throughout the film. The background music is the soul of this film, intensifying and reducing the intensity of the scenes. This remarkable musical arrangement was done by the talented composer Ludwig Göransson. The film had a budget of $100 million, which it recouped within just 2 days of its release. It will continue to generate profits as long as it stays in theaters. It proves that even with a creative approach, commercial cinema can also be financially successful, though our local filmmakers have not fully grasped this concept yet. They tend to differentiate commercial and creative cinema. This film has surpassed its competitor Barbie at the box office and is gaining popularity rapidly. When commercial and creative elements are blended, films like Oppenheimer are made. Direction. 5-time Oscar-nominated filmmaker Christopher Nolan, for whom this film was made, might receive the Best Director award for this film because its quality speaks for itself. He is extremely dedicated as a director, working on his stories with great attention and always seeking new creative angles for filmmaking. He wrote the script for this film in a few months and then spent a total of 1.5 years in its production. For this film, he worked according to the needs and requirements, employing actors like Cillian Murphy, who hails from Ireland and has international fame, to play the central character Oppenheimer. When he showed the character of Oppenheimer to Cillian Murphy, he immediately called him and then went to read the script with him. Similarly, he convinced many other top actors to accept a cut in their fees for the film, those who did it out of their love for Christopher Nolan, as nobody wanted to miss this golden opportunity to work with such a brilliant filmmaker. Half of the work of the story of this film was done by the German-American scientist biographers, Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin. To adapt it for the cinema, Christopher Nolan created the entire screenplay, but the basic structure of the story remained the same as that written by both biographers in their book. However, certain changes were made to the story to make it stronger in cinematic form. The portrayal of the central character, Oppenheimer, showed the division between his appearance and his inner life, a scientist who valued both emotions and intellect. He fell in love with 2 women who shared his progressive ideologies, including his own brother. Love led him towards women who held progressive views, and he was deeply affected by them to some extent. One he married, and she became a part of his life forever, while the other, he pushed away forever by committing suicide. Both loves were tied to a shared background. They and even his brother were influenced to some extent by his progressive thoughts. In the pursuit of love, he became entangled in complex relationships. One got married to him, and he remained somewhat infatuated, whereas the other distanced herself from him by taking her own life. This dual love further entangled Oppenheimer's life in loneliness, which he tried to forget by immersing himself in the study of Sanskrit or engaging in the complexities of physics. It was this love and humanity-driven emotion that, after the creation of the atomic bomb, instead of celebrating his success, he showed remorse in the bloodshed of innocent humans. He conveyed this emotion to the American president during a meeting, but the president tried to console him with a criminal mindset, which Oppenheimer rejected and openly opposed the industry of creating atomic bombs, even going against building the hydrogen bomb. As a result of all this, he received both fame and popularity, along with harassment. America's Atomic Commission and government agencies raised suspicions about him, tarnishing his patriotism. These very qualities, where Oppenheimer not only witnessed the burning of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the fire of the atomic bomb but also witnessed those faces and accusations burning in the same fire, which the filmmaker was able to show on screen. 3 stories unfold together on the screen, and they advance in different directions without making it feel disconnected. One is a colorful story that takes us from Oppenheimer's student days, his meeting with the famous physicist Albert Einstein, and creating the military headquarters at the Pentagon, to leading the Manhattan Project, which resulted in making the world's first atomic bomb. The second story is a black and white tale of investigating American atomic energy and secretive agencies. The third story is Oppenheimer's own story, which President Harry S. Truman rightly called the weeping child. Oppenheimer's inner child was crying, feeling burdened, and this burden was reflected in his life. Despite not asking for public forgiveness, he did display the burden of this creation, which caused him to lose his public popularity and fame and led him into difficulties. It is a different matter that a later American president, John F. Kennedy, tried to heal his wounds, but that remedy was not enough to heal that wound. Both of Oppenheimer's biographers and Christopher Nolan did such a good job of writing the story that it feels like Oppenheimer's conscience has been relieved. He was imprisoned by this conscience. Perhaps after this film, he might have been liberated from his confinement. Now, in the world above, he must be happy. Another remarkable aspect of this screenplay is that even where there are no dialogues, the characters are still speaking the language of their influence. That's quite impressive. In conclusion, let it be etched in your minds that some films are meant only for the big screen and cinema halls, and watching them on your laptop or mobile is disrespectful. This film, Oppenheimer, is also among those films that will keep theaters alive, and no matter how many online streaming portals increase in number and popularity, these films will be drawn to cinema halls. So, if you haven't yet started your cinematic journey in the world of art, go and experience this magnificent film that is awaiting your attention, vision, and applause. And in the world beyond, Oppenheimer will also be happy. For more videos, keep watching WePlay Prime YouTube channel.